Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us for today's professional development webinar, Career Happiness, Does It Really Exist? My name is Jeff Murphy, and I'm a member of the Career Programs team here in the Office of Alumni Relations. Today's webinar is sponsored by BU Alumni Relations and is offered to our 335,000 alumni around the globe. Throughout your career, BU is committed to helping you define and achieve your professional goals. We aim to do this by providing alumni with access to a series of valuable online tools and social media communities. I know that we have alumni joining us today from some very faraway places like Vienna, Sao Paulo, Bogota, Madrid, Beirut, Kuala Lumpur, Tucson, Long Beach, Denver, Washington, D.C., Atlanta, Chicago, and as always, dozens of Massachusetts alumni from towns like Berkeley, Berlin, Boston, Braintree, Brighton, Brockton, Brookline, Burlington, and more. All true. For each and every one of you out there, please know that we really do value your opinion on this and every program that we offer. Before I introduce today's speaker, some brief housekeeping notes. As you know by now, this webinar is being hosted on our Zoom online meeting platform. If you have any trouble with the audio or visual portions of today's presentation, I'll ask that you contact Zoom support directly. If you want to grab something to write with and jot down the phone number, Zoom support is at 1-888-799-9666. Today's presentation is being recorded and will soon be made available for on-demand viewing on the BU Alumni Association website found at bu.edu/alumni. Our speaker today is very eager to answer any questions that you have, and you're welcome to submit them throughout the presentation using the Q&A box. Just hover over either the top or bottom of your screen to find the Zoom menu and then select Q&A, and you can type in your question. It's now my pleasure to introduce our speaker for the day, BU Wheelock College of Education and Human Development alumna Kim Blauchuk. And Kim, you know it as SED. We made the change this year. Kim is committed to getting young professionals unstuck and finding the career of their dreams. If you're looking for a proven professional who can help you identify what you're good at and what interests you, create a plan to get where you want to be, and help you develop the skills and tools you need to achieve your success, you've come to the right place. With 20 years of corporate and academic counseling experience, working with amazing clients with similar worries and concerns and guiding them to achieve remarkable success, Kim's mission is to help everyone find their dream career. Kim has an MBA from Boston College, a Master's in Education Counseling from Boston University, and an undergrad degree from UMass Amherst. Kim, thanks so much for being here today. I'm going to go ahead and turn the floor over to you. If you want to get your slide deck up and running, we'll be off.
Yeah, how do I do that?
You'll hit share and then select.
Yeah. Okay, I got it. All right. Share. How's that?
It's coming up perfect.
Awesome. Cool.
Thanks, Kim.
Excellent. Thank you, Jeff. I'm so excited to be here. And Jeff contacted me, I think, back in the spring to put together something around happiness. And so I said, yeah, we can do happiness. And they said, well, wait, does it really exist? And I said, sure, it totally exists. So I know, let's see if I can do this here. There we go. So the short answer is yes. So if you're here on the East Coast, you need to get back to your office. Yes, career happiness exists, but I have lots of information to share about you that I've collected over the last 6 months to pull this presentation together. So I am super excited to be here. So stay tuned. Jeff did this introduction. I don't need to go through this really again, except to say that I am happy in my career, and I am increasingly happy based on the things that I do, the services I'm able to offer, and for me, the flexibility to work around my 2 school-age kids and their crazy, ever getting more so crazy schedules. So I'm excited to be here today. So like Jeff said, I work a lot with young professionals and recent college grads. I also teach yoga, and I'm home working from my home office right now today. I've had lots of jobs over the last 25 plus years in lots of different industries where I pulled my information and allows me to serve my clients. And I won't go through all this education information again, but proud to be a BU alumni. So let's get started. Our agenda today is to think about what career happiness is and what that definition means for you. And collectively what that means through the people that I've worked with and my clients over the years. To do that, we're going to talk a little bit about what happiness is. That's obviously embedded in the career happiness piece. And then we'll talk about how to increase your own career happiness. I know that's why some of you are here. There were a lot, this seemed like a popular webinar today, so I'm guessing that a lot of you are interested in becoming happier in your jobs. And then I always have a special offer for my fellow alumni, especially from those from BU. So I'll talk about that at the end of today's presentation. So before we get started, I would love for you to really give yourself the gift of being here and being focused and present. And if that means shutting off any extra devices, windows, whatever, all of mine are off. I can't even see them. I'm like, I can manage the ones that I have here. But be here. Sometimes carving out this time for you is the most difficult piece of it. So if there are other things that come along, just jot them down and set them aside. They'll be there when you get done. If it's comfortable for you, I invite you to take a few deep breaths in and out. So maybe closing your eyes if you're in a place that you can do that without someone finding you. Deep breath in through your nose, open your mouth and just sigh it out. And again, inhale happiness, exhale anything that doesn't serve you today. Inhale peace, exhale distraction. Inhale clarity, exhale confusion. Blink your eyes open and come back to where we are here today. Hopefully just doing those 3 breaths helps you center and focus a little bit more. Jeff, let's start with a poll this afternoon on career happiness. So I've set up a scale here from 1, I love my job, to 5, I strongly dislike my job. I used to have hate my job, and I got some feedback that that was a little too strong. So maybe strongly dislike is a little bit more compatible for you. So take a minute and just see where you are on the spectrum. There are no right or wrong answers here. This is just for me to get a gauge of where you're at. And I'm guessing we're probably going to be toward the middle or bottom, 3s, 4s, 5s. If you love, love, love your job, maybe you could have presented this webinar today.
Kim, we've got about 64% of the people who've actually participated, so let's give it one more second. Sure. I'll go ahead and spoil it a little bit. You're spot on.
Yeah.
Our answers are coming in right where you thought that they would.
Okay.
70%. Last chance, folks. If you're trying to decide between 2 answers, just go ahead and pick one. All right.
It's not a binding decision.
Here we go. And Kim, you should see those results now.
Okay, excellent. So it looks like we've got a few people that love their job. I think 4 of them. And then most are pretty good most days. It's okay. I could take it or leave it, kind of in the middle third. And if we look at, I go only because I have to, and I strongly dislike, we're looking at, probably most of the categories there. So excellent. Thank you for helping me with that, Jeff. So survey says 53% of Americans are unhappy at work, according to the Conference Board. And that means that 47% of you are happy, which is a little bit skewed based on our results today, but we're offering a webinar for you to explore this, so I'm not really surprised by that. And my research, we're not just unhappy at work, we're unhappy in our lives as a society. The introduction of more technology connects us more in theory, but we actually feel less connected. We have fewer intimate relationships and connections. We text, we use emojis, we send email messages with, underlying meanings that people don't understand, right? Or shouting or capitals or whatever. But we are more isolated as a society. We consider our friends those that we meet online, when in fact we don't necessarily even know them. Rates of depression, anxiety, sleep disorders are higher than ever. People are being diagnosed with those issues earlier in their lives than ever. And the expectation is that we're always available. So there's a lot of stress and tension on our lives at home and certainly at work. So what I'd like to get you to think about is, and when this isn't doom and gloom, right? And that's most of the way we feel, because we see that so much in society. The news reports on things that are not going well and not things that are happy. And our bodies remember that. Not just our minds, but our bodies feel that way too. So I think there was a handout that went out as part of the registration, or maybe a reminder, Jeff, is that right?
I emailed it last minute to everybody this morning.
Okay. So you may or may not have a copy. It's a handout that I don't seem to have in front of me either right now, but it's just, if you don't have it, just a blank piece of paper is fine. And take a minute or a couple minutes and just think about what your definition of career happiness is. If you could be ideally happy in your job or your career, what does that mean for you? And I'm not going to put any words into your head because I want you to think about it. And Jeff, I'm going to share some dictionary definitions, but if there's anything that's coming up that's maybe different from this that you'd like to share, please let me know. So if we look at some really basic dictionary definitions of happiness, once upon a time, happiness used to mean good fortune and prosperity. And today, it's more of a state of well-being or contentment, of joy. Now, some of you I can hear rolling your eyes like, that's not my job. I'm not happy here. A pleasurable or satisfying experience. That's just the happiness piece of it. If we add in the career piece, a career is a field or pursuit of consecutive progressive achievement. And I'm going to come back to this progressive achievement and growth piece, and it's a theme throughout the presentation today, especially in our public, professional, or business lives. It could also be a profession that we train for, educated for, something that we see as a calling, something that we see as something that we are enjoy doing. So if we put these two pieces together, and this is my own definition here, no research done here, but I've defined career happiness as a state of well-being or joy at one's place of employment. Now, I know that many of you are not feeling this state of joy. Joy is a big word, I think. But I'm going to show you some tips later on about how that happens. So Jeff, are you seeing anything that might contradict that, or something that you want to share about those things?
Yeah, no, we should have specified if folks are feeling like they've got a different definition, if you want to go ahead and weigh in using the chat feature. Again, just hover over the menu and select chat as opposed to Q&A. Quite frankly, we can use both. But if you've got something different to share, feel free to throw it out there.
Okay. And while you're doing that, these are definitions that I've collected through my years of working with clients and some of the things that they would want as part of their career in order to be happy. So, and these are in sort of relative order of importance, but not exact. Doing work you're good at gives a sense of achievement. It makes us happy if we're doing things that we're good at. Doing meaningful work that helps others. Lots of research shows that people are happier if they're helping people do something. So it could be working directly with people. Maybe it's providing data or information that's helping people in some way. But there's some intrinsic value to providing the work that you're doing. It's not just doing work for the sake of doing it, but being able to help some other people. Being able to be recognized for your contributions. And this could be, hey, Jeff, that's a great job. Thanks for pitching in. It could be a financial contribution. It could be a project or a patent or, some other kind of big thing. It could be big or little, but just being recognized for that is, thanks, you've done a good job. This I thought was interesting. Clear tasks with variety and freedom to decide how to perform them. So, many of us, maybe most of us, don't like to be micromanaged, but to be able to know and understand what it is that's expected of us, and then giving us the choice to be able to perform that in the best way that we can. So clearly some of us prefer a structure, some guidelines to say, this is where I like to be, but maybe putting your own twist or spin on it in order to deliver the results. Supportive colleagues and management, huge piece, right? If you don't enjoy the people that you work with, it's going to be really difficult for you to go to work and thrive every day. Opportunity for growth. We're going to see this again and again. Happiness is not a destination. It's not a point in time or space. It's a continuum. And I'll talk more about that in a few minutes, but the opportunity for growth is really important. Imagine that you had a job that you were going to do the same job with the same people doing the same thing day in and day out for years or your entire career. That makes me shudder, and I'm sure that many of you are in the same boat, right? Nobody wants to be stuck in the same place. So to know that you might start someplace and continue to grow is a really attractive feature for career happiness. A passion for what you're doing. And the interesting part here is that you don't necessarily need to do a job that's related to your passions. Let's say that you love to play golf, or you build things out of wood, or you like to do yoga. That doesn't mean that your job has to be that way, but there are lots of things that we can do that we can become passionate about, mostly because of these things above us, right? We have opportunity for growth. It gives us a sense of achievement. We're helping others. We're being recognized. We've got supportive colleagues to work with. Career happiness also comes as a result of schedule, commute, job insecurity or security, or whatever your compensation is. And the interesting piece here is that compensation doesn't come in until way down on the list here. And that's consistent with most of the clients that I work with. Sure, we need to get compensated for what we do, and we wouldn't do what we do for what we would consider unfair pay. But that's not always the biggest piece, right? Would you sacrifice some percentage of your pay, some X number of thousands of dollars, in order to have all of these other pieces work here, right? I said that I'm working from my home office. I do this and run my own business for my own flexibility of schedule. For me, this is way high on my list because I've got 2 kids that I shuttle all over the place all the time. So think about where you're at here. On this list of career happiness. Is there any other pieces that you might add to your own definition? And maybe your words are a little bit different, but this is basically, you know, an expanded version of that, you know, having a sense of joy at your place of employment. So now, Jeff, did you come up with, is anybody else sharing any other information there that you'd like to share?
You mentioned at the end about sort of compensation, but Jay, thanks for chiming in. He said it's very clever: wallet blissfulness and being financially balanced. Yeah,
balance is a great word, right? And I was at a conference once and somebody was talking about work-life balance, and they said the work-life never balances. It integrates, but it's never really a balance. And you know, any of us that are trying to manage careers and lives and families and all of those other pieces, interests, it's a constant integration of how am I going to make this work, right? It doesn't to me always feel like it balances. All right, great. Thanks for sharing. So some information about happier employees. So if you are a happy employee, you're both better at securing and keeping your job, right? And we all want the opportunity to keep and get good jobs. We're more creative and we tend to work more hours on our own, not because we have to, but because we want to. We get more positive reviews and promotions. So we have that opportunity for growth, right? To be able to grow within our organization. My mouse is a little sticky here today. We're better problem solvers and team players. We tend to get along better with others. No surprise there. Again, more likely to help each other. Here's something that's great. If you're a happier employee, you're less stressed and you're in better health. Who doesn't want that, right? Less turnover, less sick leave. You tend to show up because you're invested in what you're doing. And here I think this was interesting. A lot of research says that you are perceived as more friendly, more confident, and even more attractive if you're happier. So who doesn't want all that, right? This sounds great. We all want to be happier employees, right? That's why you're here today. I get that. So how do we get there, right? Happy employees aren't just happy at work. They're happy in their lives, right? So we need to take a step back here and think about how we can be happy people, and then think about how to overlay the career piece of that. Does that make sense for people? I think it's, you know, it's hard to pull them apart, but they're really integrated, I guess, for lack of a better word. So let's think about what happiness is. And in defining that, happiness is not a destination. It's not a one-stop shop, right? It's not something that we do and then check off and say, okay, I'm done being happy. I'm going to move on to something else. We want to continue to be happy, right? So happiness is a journey. It's an ongoing process. We use lots of emojis in our lives, right? We use them in text. We use them in emails. We sometimes misinterpret them, but you know, putting on a smiley face is not happiness, right? Maybe it's like, hey, we're happy, but that doesn't make us, you know, or laughing, but that doesn't make us genuinely happy. Going back to the beginning of our country's founding here in the United States, right? Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We've been talking about this for a long time. It's something that we're always striving to do and to get better at. Lots of quotes around happiness, right? So mathematician and philosopher Blaise Pascal says, all men, and I'll add women, seek happiness. This is without exception. Whatever different means they employ, they all tend to this end. So we all have a different definition of what happiness means to you, to us, to me, to Jeff, to all of you on the call today. But we're all trying to get there, right? And to be something better than what we are now. So here's a traditional formula for happiness, and not one that's probably surprising for many of you, right? But we've grown up in a society that says if we work hard, we will be successful, and if we're successful, we'll be happy. So take a moment and think of a time where you had a goal, maybe to get into a college, to get a job, to get married, to buy a house, to go on a trip, right? And you work hard, you're successful, you get there, and you're happy, and then you get home or you achieve that goal and you go right back to not being happy again, right? So one of the authors, there's a book called The Happiness Advantage written by a guy named Sean Achor. He's based at Harvard University. And he was there for 12 years and studied these students that had been, accepted to one of the most prestigious universities in the world. And they got there and they weren't happy. And he thought, what's going on here, right? We got to figure out the success formula doesn't work. So maybe you have your own examples of that, and I would encourage you to think of that. I can certainly think of some in my own background. But what if we do this? What if we put happiness in the beginning, right? That we become happy. We are happy in ourselves. And then all of these other pieces sort of dance around it and spiral up from there. Our career success, our creativity, our financial success, our health and well-being, our social success, our relationships. Doesn't that make sense, right? That we're not relying on some event or some specific area of expertise or something to happen in order for us to be happy. We can be happy now. There's nothing that's stopping you from being happy today. This must be a good slide. My mouse is like, I don't want to move forward. So Sean Achor, again, this positive psychologist from Harvard, says, the way we define happiness is the joy you feel striving toward your potential. Isn't it fun and exciting when you have a goal in mind? You know that you want to attain a degree. You're looking for a job. You're looking for a new house, right? You're looking for a new relationship in your life. You're working toward a health goal. All of those things are fun and exciting as we are striving toward that potential. Aristotle, once upon a time, said happiness depends on ourselves, right? It's an inside job, says William Arthur Ward, an inspirational writer, and lots of other people have written books about this, right? It's up to you to decide that you're going to be happy. So happiness is, sort of that circle, but it's also all enmeshed together, right? And that growth piece is really important. So it's not just work, which, by the way, gives us a lot of our happiness. We often get a lot of reward from our working and contributing and helping others and all those great things that we talked about. But it's about exercising and sleeping and taking care of yourself, being with people that you love to be with. And the piece that kept coming up that is interesting for me, and I know you could see my background is nice and clean. I did a little cleanup when I got on the phone with Jeff this morning, but simplicity, right? Cleaning out some of the clutter. All of the things that we have in our lives are things that we need to take care of or move or keep tidy or, gets in our way. So how can you make your life a little more simple? And I'm going to forget who it is, but somebody said that they only wear, certain colored pants, certain colored tops, right? And they don't need to think about what they're going to wear in the morning. My husband does the same thing. Khakis, button-down shirts, done. Weekends, weekdays, fancy occasions, work, it's all good, right? And it's super easy. He never has a discussion around what he's going to wear. Maybe color, but that's about it, right? So think about how these pieces impact your own simplicity in your life, right? Or your own happiness in your life, the people that you're with, the sleep that you get, right? Super important. Jeff and I had this conversation before we started. Sometimes kids impact that sleep pattern, but it's still really critical. Exercising and, again, moving towards something and not being stagnant. So William Butler Yeats says, an Irish poet says, happiness is neither virtue nor pleasure, nor this thing, nor that, but simply growth. We're happy when we're growing. So take a minute and think about that and think about those goals you've had and think about what it's been like on the path to getting to reach those goals and not just actually being there or arriving. Okay, so we've covered a lot of information about happiness, career happiness, what it means to you, what it means to other people, what it means to be a happy employee. You know, so what? I get to these sessions, and I have a lot of these sessions with my clients, right? We dig up lots of information, and then I say, so what? So how do we increase career happiness? What is it that we can do in order to make our lives a little bit better at work? So we have this gap here, right? So we've got unhappiness on this side. I'm going to assume that some of you are standing here just looking. We're not looking to jump. We're just looking to make this bridge here between unhappiness and happiness in this gap. So how do we get there? What are some of the things that we can do to get here? And for some of you, this gap may be much bigger than this. It may feel insurmountable. For some of you, this might be just a little bit of a gap, but I made you a little medium gap here today. So on the bottom half of your worksheet, if you have that, is space for you to start to think about what you can do to make yourselves happy. So the first piece, and really easy, and we're here in the time of Thanksgiving here in the United States, right? We're celebrating Thanksgiving next week, is practicing gratitude. What are you grateful for? And I had a call with a fellow coaching colleague this morning and at 9:30, and she said, whew, what a day already. She said, but I'm really happy that my husband was able to get my kids on the bus and that I was able to sneak in this call, and now I'm sitting here talking to you. So super easy. What are you grateful for? It would have been so easy to say, I don't know how I'm going to get the kids on the bus because I have a call at 8:15, another one at 9. I have all these other things to do, right? And so our perspective of how things are going is really based on just that, your perspective. The kids still got on the bus. She still had her 2 meetings, right? How is your perception of that? Was that a success? Was that a win? Or was it not a win? We spend a lot of time during the day doing a lot of different things. So practicing gratitude is just an opportunity for you to start your day and think about maybe 3 things that you want to have happen that day. And at the end of the day, and it's best to write it down. There's a lot of research that says that active writing is kinesthetic. There's a lot of research around why that's a better thing to do. But if you can't do that, maybe it's on your commute home. Can you think about 3 great things that happened that day and how they made you feel? And maybe they weren't the things that you planned that day, but they worked out pretty well, right? And sometimes it's just, cleaning off your email box. Maybe it's cleaning off your desk so you can see. Maybe it's being able to go for a walk. Maybe it's somebody that said, hey, thanks for helping me out today. So I challenge you to think about that. Now, the statistics on this are really cool, and there's tons of information here. And I actually have a tip sheet that I'll give you access to at the end of this call if you want to see some of the more of what I'm talking about here. I have a more formal list, but these don't have to be big things, right? It could be that there was cream available for your coffee, or that the pen you picked up that wrote, right? But if you only do this once a week or once a day, then it starts to carry over into the rest of your life, not just at work, but then all of a sudden you start noticing things at home. You start to notice that, hey, somebody swept the leaves off of the driveway today, or maybe shoveled the snow out of the driveway that we might be facing tomorrow here in New England. So if you have your list, maybe you get a nice little journal to put it in. Maybe you just write it on a sticky note. Maybe you put it in your calendar so it's a constant reminder. But think about how you can practice gratitude. Being mindful. I talked about at the beginning of our call today how busy we are, right? How many things are pulling at us at the same time. We have phones, we've got computers, everything's binging and dinging at us, right? There are things that we need to do, places we need to be, people we need to talk to, projects that need to get done. But if you can just slow down and take a few deep breaths like I had you do at the beginning of today's call, can you just be mindful of what really needs to go on, what really needs to happen right now? Can you be aware of what needs to be done? Can you observe the dynamics of the group that you're working with? Can you notice how things are feeling, what they seem, or what they actually are? Can you actually stop and pause and listen to what somebody is saying to you, and not listen while you've got your phone in your hand and the other phone is ringing and you're on your way out the door, but that you look somebody in the eye and have a really meaningful conversation. And you can't really do that on technology. It's nice to see Jeff here, and this is about as close as we get to in person, but we're still not, the benefit of being in the same room is definitely not the same here. So let the past go. Notice what's here now. Being mindful and being present is focusing in on what's happening right now, not what happened or not what will happen. All of that stuff is either done or will happen anyway, but focus on what's really here. So many studies show that this reduces your stress, anxiety, helps you feel better about yourself, to just unplug and be completely in the moment. Not easy, but practice. I give you the challenge to try that today. Exercise. I know some of you are thinking, oh, we're rolling into the holidays. How am I going to make time for exercise? If you can make time for just 30 minutes a day, and I'm not talking, hardcore, be at the gym, lifting lots of weights. Get up and move away from your desk. Put your phone down and go for a walk outside. Maybe it's cold. Maybe it's warm where you are. I know we've got people all over the world. Go find some space and time to get up and walk around. Say hello to somebody in the office. Park your car further away from the mall so that you don't have to, fight for a parking spot at Christmas. Go walk to the, refill your water bottle at the cooler. Use the stairs, right? We see all these things all the time, but all those little pieces of movement help and create all of these feel-good feelings in your body that are going to help you feel happier. So if you're feeling that mid-morning slump or that mid-afternoon slump where you're ready to go for the candy bar, get up and go for a walk first. If you still want your candy bar when you get back, have it. But at least you've gotten some movement, the blood pumping, which is really important. All right, number 4, meditate. Now, I know some of you are going to say, there's no way I can sit still. There's no way that I can meditate. I told you at the beginning that I'm a practicing yogi. I teach yoga. I teach yoga to kids that now sit still. I teach yoga to adults who sometimes don't sit as well as the kids do. But meditating could be as simple as that breathing exercise that I did at the beginning of our call. It doesn't need to be an hour. It doesn't need to be 30 minutes. It doesn't even need to be 5 minutes. If you could set the timer on your phone for, let's say, a minute, and during that minute, just focus on the inhalation and exhalation of your breath, I guarantee at the end of that minute that you're going to feel more relaxed. The whole premise behind that, and happier, the whole premise behind that is that your body can't be stressed and relaxed at the same time. And by taking those deep breaths, your body knows that it's being relaxed. It knows that you're not in a fight or flight position where you need to breathe fast and quickly. It gives you time to pause and relax. So I challenge all of you to do that. There are tons of apps online that you can download. There are lots of YouTube videos. You can Google all kinds of stuff on meditation. But it takes all this scrambly stuff coming in on the left side of your screen and makes it all calm on the other side. One of the false things that we think about, or people think when they meditate, is that it shuts your mind down. Your mind's not meant to be quiet. It's not meant to be going a million miles an hour like we are in most situations, but it's also an opportunity for you to slow down. Set aside those things that aren't important to you. It helps you be more mindful and in the moment. And finally, number 5, practice random acts of kindness. Be the reason that someone smiles today. It could be something really easy. For me, it's when my kids put their dishes in the dishwasher. For you at work, it might be holding the door for somebody. It might be picking up a cup of coffee. It doesn't need to cost a lot of money. Just let people know that you're thinking of them and that you're trying to make their lives a little bit easier. Paying it forward like that is going to reap all kinds of benefits. It makes you feel good. It makes the recipient feel good. And you can do this, as often or as little as you like. So think about how you might be able to work that into your day and your schedule so that you can, feel good. And again, it doesn't have to cost a lot of money or, be complicated, right? Just do something spur of the moment. So some of you are saying, okay, yeah, I can do some of these things. These are great. They're all free and easy to do. But what if I'm in a job that I'm so far past this that this isn't even a possibility? You have a choice, right? You've got a choice here. I've presented some options that maybe you can start to shift the perspective of what it is, of how you're looking at your job. But maybe you're too far gone or your job is too far gone. So think about these questions. Are your expectations at work realistic? Are you expecting your job is going to be most amazing part of your day, but it doesn't fit some of those happiness pieces that we looked at the beginning of the call. Are your values congruent with those of the company or the industry or the job that you're working in? Really, really important, right? Lots of industries we could work in: education, financial services, defense contracting, healthcare. I don't know, the list goes on and on, but are there some that just in that short list that I mentioned that you'd say, ooh, no way I'd work for that kind of organization, or wow, that would feel really good for me? So pay attention to that and think about the type of job that you're working for. Or the kind of company that you're working for, and how your values mesh with that. If your values aren't a mesh, even if you're doing the best job that you could, and I've had some really cool jobs at some companies that just weren't a good fit for me. So the key is to find both your, a place that your skills are valued, but your interests and your values are also looked at as well. What's your tolerance for risk? And here, this is risk is a big word, and some people say, oh, I don't have any tolerance for risk. If you don't have at least some tolerance for risk, then it's not likely that you're going to be able to grow. And honestly, I have a whole other webinar that talks about being stuck in a job you hate and why we get stuck there. And it's things like fear. It's easier to stay where we are. It might be, the devil we know is better than the devil we don't know. There are lots of reasons why people don't change jobs, but sometimes you need to have a little bit of a risk in order to make some change and to include that growth in your pattern to be happy. And what's your commitment to action? What's your commitment to growing? Maybe you're not committed to growing right now. Maybe you're in a job that's, I need to make this the best it can be right now. I have a client right now that I'm working with who's been let go from her job. She's there through the end of the year, another 6 weeks or so. I was on the phone with her the other day, and she said, well, I know I'm never going to get this job, and I know I'm never going to get that job, and I'm never going to make this kind of money. And I said, you're not with that attitude, right? So sometimes it's just shifting the focus. So we did a little exercise to think about what it is that she wanted to do in her job, and how much money she wanted to make, and what she wanted her commute to look like, what all those great things are that would make her happy. And all that stuff's going to start to come together for her. I don't have a magic wand. It's really just setting your intention so that you know that you've got a commitment to go and do something different. So with that, I recognize that sometimes these are hard questions to ask yourself, and they're hard questions to answer, even to yourself, right? And if your significant other is thinking that you need to have this job because you're making a certain amount of money, or society is putting this pressure on you to stay because it's a cool job, you've got a cool title, then there's a lot of stuff there to work through. So I put together a special offer for you, for everybody that's on this call and anybody who listens to the recording afterwards, a 20-minute Kickstart Your Career strategy session. And my goal here is to uncover the things that are keeping you from being happy in your career. And there are lots of them, but really there's a small list, maybe a handful of small things that everybody falls into that category. And I'll give you at least one step that you can take to get into action fast, so that maybe 2019 is your time to get a new job or to be happy in your job, and figure out what that is. So in order to sign up for that, I don't think I gave you a, I'm going to give you a, I'll give you a website to click to, and I'll make sure Jeff has it so he can include it with the other piece. I usually put it on this page. I upgraded my BU logo, and I must have cut some content out here. But basically it's kbcareercoach.com/kickstart, just this word kickstart here. I've also created a career happiness tip sheet that goes through some of the tips that we just talked about here. So if you'd like to download that, you can click on this link, kbcareercoach.com/career-happiness. And at this time, I would love to open this up for questions. And while those are starting to come in, I'm going to share all of my contact information here. So if you'd like to email me or check out my website. Oh, you know what?
I don't know if that's my screen or yours.
No, you know what it is? This is technology. So I pulled this on. I pulled this in from another presentation that I had, and I had recorded this slide. So that was my voice on the slide, not my voice here in person. So, so anyway, I invite you all to connect with me here. I won't keep this up because, well, I'll keep it up now, but if I go back, I'll leave this up and I'll open it for questions, because if I reset it, then it's gonna have the voice. So, sorry.
And this is awesome.
So any questions, comments, ideas?
Yeah,
You're on
folks,
board with this? Crazy? What are you thinking?
please use the Q&A function to ask your questions. Although Jay has asked a great question using the chat that we'll get to. Manuel made a great point. Thank you, Manuel, that the link that you mentioned, Kim, that failed to make it to your slide deck here is actually printed at the bottom of the handout that we sent everybody this morning.
Good.
So
okay, good.
Thank you, Manuel, for catching that.
Yeah.
We had our first question came in from somebody whose name I didn't capture here, but to that person, the question was really about feeling as though they were dwindling job opportunities and failure to sort of get their resume seen. For that person that asked that question, Kim, the fact that you're willing to do these 20-minute consultations with folks is really spectacular. So thank you. And the anonymous question asker, I would encourage you to take Kim up on that. I know how fantastic she is. I mentioned Jay's question. It's a great one. And for those of you who have questions of your own, please feel free to chime in here. Jay's wondering, what do you recommend for somebody who's very happy in their career and life, is currently finishing up a degree? Should they take advantage of the degree that they've just earned and try to make some more money, but possibly risk that unhappiness, that devil that you don't know that you mentioned? Or should they stick around since the grass isn't always greener on the other side? How do you advise your clients through situations?
Yeah, really, really good question. And I guess, Mike, there are a lot of questions back to think about. Why are you getting the degree? Is it in the same discipline? Does it help open up some different job opportunities for you? Does it open new opportunities at your current company? Does it give you an opportunity for growth? Submitting your resume, and this is another whole webinar I've actually done. I don't know if we have it recorded, Jeff, on networking strategies, but I'm a big fan of connecting with people and networking with people, and I've got a whole program going now on networking, nurturing your network in November. And I've got all kinds of stuff on social media, on LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram about how to nurture your network this month. But my thought is for you to go and talk to some people and see what other kinds of opportunities might exist. And you might decide that you're perfectly fine where you are, or there might be some others that, taking that risk might be worth it to try something else. And, but kudos to you. If you're happy in your life and career, you're ahead of most of us. So good job.
Yeah, Kim, you mentioned that this is, I think, the third webinar you've done for us, and you can find Kim's other webinars at our on-demand library. And again, that's at www.bu.edu/alumni. I also want to mention you touched on some elements of positive psychology, and that's certainly been an emerging trend in a lot of the webinars that we've done. And we've had some other really good sessions specifically about that sort of positive thinking in the workplace that you talked about that builds even more off of what you got into. Claudia has asked a great question. Do you recommend changing jobs or careers if you're 5 to 7 years from retirement? Or would you advise somebody to stick it out for that 5 years, retire, and then pursue something new? Losing salary at that end might extend the time that you have to work to save for Social Security. There's some nuts and bolts aspects that go along with the sort of happiness factor. So what would your advice be for Claudia? Yeah,
really good question. I actually have a coaching colleague who works specifically with clients who are approaching retirement like you, and I'm happy to make a referral. But the short answer is, can you do what you're doing for the next 5 to 7 years, or do you feel like you're missing out on something else? What's the trade-off of, compensation for happiness? There are a lot of variables in there, but, I think you can change jobs at any point. I think, if you have a desire and an interest and, the ability to make that change that's going to make you happier now, why delay that happiness for 5 to 7 years is my quick answer. But lots of embedded stuff in there, but reach out and we can have a conversation if you'd like.
Another question from Jay. How do you deal with being rejected time and time again for new opportunities while you and other individuals perceive your resume and work experience to be excellent?
Yeah, so I guess my initial piece is, are you applying for the right kinds of jobs? And what happens So, your resume gets you to an interview, your interview gets you to a job, but if you're applying to maybe not the right types of jobs, or, I have a client that, this is a funny story. I have a client that has lots of interviews, but they're not for the jobs that he wants. So he, submits his resume, gets a call, and then he tries to figure out how not to go on the interview. And I said, stop applying for jobs you don't want to go on, right? So I would guess, is there something fundamentally in your resume that's not a good match for the types of jobs that you're looking for? There's got to be there's something there that's not meshing. So without knowing all the details, I would say keep looking at your resume and get some feedback. Talk to some of the employers aren't always going to give you the feedback that you want, but you might be able to say, do some other informational interviewing with other people in the industry to say what is it that, what is it about my resume that isn't working? Talk to people. So many people rely on, submitting a resume and expecting to get a job. Something like 85% of jobs are never advertised. So get in there and start talking to other people that might have opportunities.
And sometimes I invoke moderator privilege and ask my own question. And so I'm going to do that now. I don't identify myself as a career coach, even though I've been in this role for the alumni office doing career programming for our alumni for about 6 years. I've had a ton of conversations with BU alumni over the years about their career satisfaction. And one of the things that I've heard time and time again is people feeling as though they're sort of this one person at their workplace or in their career that is a source of major unhappiness for them. Mm-hmm. So much of the sort of framework that you've given us today is about, it's on you to make those changes, mm-hmm. using some of the sort of different, 5 strategies that you've laid out. Does your advice for folks about finding career happiness change at all when there's sort of like one person involved in a relationship that is causing some of that unhappiness? Or is it really just, focus on the good things, practice random acts of kindness? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I guess is it one person that's impacting the happiness of everyone, or is it just you and that one person that are not getting along, right? Sometimes there is that one person. You could print out my tip sheet and leave it on their desk. They could work it that way. Thinking about why, that person is maybe unhappy or isn't working, or why you're not working with them, and taking a step back. Is it because they have a job that you want? Is it because they've got something else going on in their lives that's really stressful? Is it because they've got too much on their plate? There's a million different reasons why, but we can't control what other people think or do. I tried that. It doesn't work. Really the only control that you have is over you and your own choices. So, if that person is that, toxic is a strong word to your environment, then maybe it's time to think about, something else or some other different option. I don't know if that answers your question, but.
Sure. No, it absolutely does. And I think, as I was asking the question, it was running through my mind, you can't change somebody else. That's stuff we've heard before. Heather has sort of asked a follow-up on my question that you kind of got to, if that toxic person is your boss and the head of the department. Mm-hmm. She's wondering how that changes things when it's not just a coworker who's making you unhappy, but the person that you're reporting
to. Same thing, right? We all have choices. So is there another opportunity in the group or the division or the company, or, is it something that you can work out and say, you know what, I really love my job here. I love what I do. I contribute, but, sometimes you can just agree to disagree with people. It's a hard conversation to have. But, maybe it's opening that dialogue. And, sometimes it's interesting with different personality styles. Maybe they don't think they're that difficult. Right. And if you say, gee, every time you tell me this or act this way, it makes me feel like this. Really? I had no idea, right? Maybe you just know that that's what that person's style is, and, it rubs you the wrong way, but that that's the way they are. And underneath that, hard, crusty, difficult piece is something that you can, is supportive and allows you to grow and do the job you want. Let it go.
We're getting some great questions, and a lot of them, I think, Kim, this happiness topic branches off into so many different things that could be a webinar of their own. So there's a couple questions here that I think might be right for people to ask you in that follow-up that you've offered. And so if I don't get to your question right now, I would encourage you to ask Kim, just because I think it might be sort of getting into the weeds a little bit on the topic. So again, Kim has made this generous offer. I'd encourage you, if you don't get your question answered, to follow up with her. But a question came in from Sarah. Sarah's became unhappy in her job because the workplace changed its mission. When she started, the job aligned with her values, but over time the work shifted its clients and expectations. So she's made the decision to leave. She's happy with her choice, still wants to work in that sort of career and in that industry, but with a different organization. So it sounds like from Sarah, from your question, that you're currently between gigs. And so how do you, and again, this could be an entirely different webinar, but how do you explain that decision to new employers when they take a look at your resume and see that there's a gap because you've made the decision to leave an organization?
Yeah, lots of people have gaps in their resumes these days for lots of different reasons. And, I think being able to describe that in a way that was, makes you look like the stronger of the two parties there, to say, you know what, I was in a place, and it's fine. You could say I was working for a place that, shifted its focus and was out of line with my values. And I decided to take a pause and reevaluate what I'm doing, and really am committed to being someplace that is comfortable and where I want to be and continue to grow. That's great. If you have the ability to do that and recognize it and articulate it, go for it.
Great questions, everybody. Thank you, Kim, so much for doing this for us. And again, you've donated so much of your time to the BU community via these webinars. You've done some in-person events for us here in Boston. I can't thank you enough for all the time that you've contributed to our community. And this webinar, we had several hundred people sign up for it. I know the recording is going to be seen several hundred times. I'm just so appreciative of the happiness that you're going to help our BU alumni community find. So can't thank you enough.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. This is really fun. And, again, if anybody has any other questions, don't hesitate to reach out. I put the tip sheet URL back up so you can find that. It's a little harder to find on my website unless you know where it is. So I made it just for you.
Thanks again, Kim. I also want to thank all of our guests for participating today. I want to definitely thank those of you who have donated to BU in the past. We really appreciate your support. We have 2 webinars coming up in December that unfortunately are not yet available to register for. Keep an eye on our online events calendar at bu.edu/alumni/events. But in the meantime, I'd encourage all of you to check out the BU Alumni Office just launched a new podcast. It's called Proud to BU. I will be your host, but it's an interview series where we ask some of our most interesting and accomplished alumni to share their career stories and the lessons learned along the way. We launched with 4 episodes this last Thursday. There's some really great alumni featured in there. You can find the Proud to BU podcast wherever you download or listen to your podcasts already. You can also get started on our website, again, bu.edu/alumni/podcast. Check it out. I'm really proud of the work that we've done on that, and I hope that you'll take a listen. As always, if you or any BU alum that you know would be interested in doing a webinar presentation like this, I'll ask that you please contact me at the Alumni Relations Office or at jtmurphy@bu.edu. Thanks again, Kim. Really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
And thank you, everybody, for being here. I hope you have a great day or a great evening, wherever you might be. Take care.